Eliza Marr kept her breathing shallow as she knelt beside a spreading blot of blood the color of garnets. The apartment smelled of pennies and cheap air freshener. The air freshener bothered her more. Blood was honest. Artificial lavender tried to pretend none of this had happened. She eased a swab across the laminate floor, noting the pattern for the report the police never read. At 34, she had spent 12 years wiping away other people's nightmares, long enough to know which stains would surrender to peroxide and which demanded grinding elbow grease. She moved in gradients of crimson and brown and never thought about her own red. Until the mitten. It was wedged under the futon, too small for any adult, wool knitted in a scallop pattern. She pulled it free with tweezers and froze. A white button was stitched where a pom-pom should have been, a perfectly wrong button she hadn't seen since she was 9. She remembered with painful clarity her mother frowning over the lost pom-pom, sewing on the button instead, saying, "Nothing's missing, we just changed the story." The memory ended there, as memories often did for Eliza. Cut clean like film, spliced mid-frame. Childhood for her was a junk drawer, fragments that wouldn't click together. She had stopped trying years ago. She bagged the mitten in evidence plastic, wrote "found object" on the line, and kept working. The homicide detectives cleared the scene an hour later, satisfied the victim, college senior, male, stabbed 24 times, had no connection to any missing mittens. Eliza signed her clearance sheet, slipped the plastic bag into her kit, and told herself she would hand it in later. That night she stuck it on her kitchen counter and stared. The knit still smelled faintly of cedar, like the trunk that used to sit at the foot of her childhood bed. She poured bourbon over ice, something she never did on a weeknight, and drank until the mitten blurred. Then she shoved it into the freezer. Adult logic. If you freeze something, it can't breathe out its ghosts. And went to bed. 2 weeks later, in a gutted Victorian near the interstate, she found the music box. The scene was uglier than usual. The victim, an elderly woman, had been left in a chair facing a cracked window, the city's yellow lights blinking through bullet holes. Eliza worked in silence beside her partner Manny, who whistled faint salsa rhythms off-key, his coping mechanism. When she lifted a throw rug to soak the blood pooled underneath, a tinny chime tinkled. A child's music box lay beside the sofa leg, lacquer chipped, the ballerina bent at the waist as though bowing. On its lid, someone had etched the name Liza with a pocket knife, the E long gone, a scar of metal in its place. Manny saw her staring. "You okay?" "Fine." She snapped on fresh gloves and turned the key. A lullaby spun out. Hickory-dickory-dock, each note wobbly with age. Her stomach swayed with it. She had owned this box, she was sure of it. She remembered hiding a tooth beneath the velvet lining, hoping the tooth fairy paid extra for presentation. She bagged the box. Manny raised an eyebrow. "Found object," she said. Back at their van, Manny pressed. "First the mitten at Lexington Street. Now a toy? You collect things?" "I'm not a crow," she said. She intended it as a joke, but her voice collapsed halfway, leaving the words brittle. She didn't freeze the music box. She wound it and listened until the spring ran out, then opened her laptop. Missing years in memory loss. Childhood amnesia. PTSD. None of the articles soothed her. She closed the computer and dialed Dr. Sen, the trauma therapist she hadn't seen in 3 years. "I'm having flashes," she said when she walked into the office the next afternoon. "Objects, they feel like triggers." Dr. Sen nodded, unalarmed. Sometimes memories surface when the mind has space. These surfaced in murder scenes. "That is unusual," the therapist admitted. "Can you think of anyone who'd want to send you a message?" "No one even knows where I work." She stopped. That wasn't true. It was printed on her LinkedIn like everything else. Still, only the homicide team had access to active scene lists. Unless it's someone on the inside. Dr. Sen leaned forward. "How did your parents die, Eliza?" She hated this part of therapy, the scoop of disappointment when she had no answer. "I was 12. There was a fire. I was told it was faulty wiring. Any siblings? A brother. The word felt dusty in her mouth. Liam. He ran away 3 months before the fire. I haven't seen him since. What if the messages are from him? He was 15. If he's alive, he's pushing 40 and probably doesn't remember me either. She stood. Thanks for the great talk, Doc. Outside, rain salted her cheeks. She called Manny, half hoping he would invite her for Cuban coffee and pointless banter. His phone went to voicemail. She drove home, lights off, sat on the couch, and listened to the freezer hum around the mitten. Another week passed. Another scene. This time it was a suburban split level, Halloween decorations still up though November wind rattled the skeletons. A father and 2 children lay in the den, throats opened with surgical accuracy. Police tape fluttered over inflatable pumpkins. When Eliza unzipped the boy's Pokemon backpack to inventory ruined contents, a marble rolled out. Milky glass shot with a twist of cobalt. She picked it up and felt dizzy, the way she used to watch marbles spin down hall cracks, betting which color streak would come to rest first. She had lost this particular marble in 2nd grade, cried about it for days. She curled her fingers until the marble cut crescents in her palm. Someone was not only excavating her childhood, he was murdering strangers to build dioramas of her past. Found something? Detective Kurland asked. He was new, freckled, smelled of chewing gum. Kid stuff, she said, and dropped the marble back into the bag. But she did not write "found object" on the log. She slid the marble into her pocket. That night she broke into the police database. Manny's cousin owed her favors and a password. She cross-checked the addresses of the last 3 homicides against her own foster records. What few pages existed. A chill ribboned down her spine. Each murder occurred within 5 miles of a house she had once lived in before the fire. She hovered the cursor over a 4th address, an unsolved stabbing from 3 months earlier, and felt her chest flutter like paper catching fire. That scene had been across the street from St. Agnes' Home for Children, where she'd spent 3 blurry months at age 6. She printed the map and traced the points with a highlighter. They formed an inward spiral heading toward one location, her childhood home on Elderberry Lane, long abandoned. The house where the fire started. Eliza left Manny a voicemail. Family emergency, can't make the Thompson job tomorrow. Then packed her cleaning kit like armor, gloves, respirator, bleach, plus a 9mm she kept illegal and loaded. She drove at dawn. Elderberry Lane curled through hushed woods 30 minutes outside city limits. The trees here were thin and tall, letting in slanted light that made everything gold and suspicious. Number 27 crouched at the end of the lane, roof sagging like a broken vertebra. Kudzu throttled the porch columns. Someone had cut the lock on the front door. The chain dangled like a tongue. She stepped inside. The living room smelled of smoke, though it had been 2 decades. Soot shadows still blackened the ceiling. The floorboards, however, were scrubbed clean, fresh bleach, her brand, her rolling signature. Someone had prepared the scene the way she would, except for the centerpiece, a chair facing the fireplace. On the seat lay a single Polaroid. She took it. The image showed 2 children on this very porch. A girl in bright mittens waving, a boy beside her holding a marble between thumb and forefinger. The boy's face was scraped away, leaving a pale oval where identity should be. Behind her, footsteps tapped. She turned, gun up. A man stood in the archway, tall, hair going gray, eyes the same uncertain hazel she saw in mirrors. He wore latex gloves speckled with dried blood. In his left hand he cradled a teddy bear missing one ear. "Liam?" she whispered, as if saying it too loud would break the world again. He smiled, small and cracked. "Liza, you made it." She kept the gun level with his chest. "You killed those people." "I borrowed their houses," he corrected. "Needed rooms to rebuild the days for you. Couldn't use the originals. They're gone. Fire does that. You murdered children." I tried to choose ones who wouldn't fit anymore, same as us. The girl at the Victorian beat her dachshund. The college kid sold pills that killed 2 freshmen. The father, let's just say I saved his kids years of pain. Liam stepped closer. I did it to give you back what they took. Who? Her throat felt lined with ash. Mom, Dad, the ones who were supposed to keep us whole. He gestured at the sooted ceiling. They lit the fire for the insurance money, you know. Didn't plan on the wiring shorting while we were still inside. Eliza's vision tunneled. Images returned like poisoned birds. Her father yelling about overdue bills. Her mother feeding them cold cereal for dinner. The hiss of gasoline. She remembered smoke clawing her lungs. Liam dragging her through a back window while sirens wailed. You ran away, she said. I watched from the woods. Wanted to see if they'd get you out. His voice broke. They didn't even look. So you decided to kill strangers 2 decades later. To what? Teach me history? To glue us back together. He held up the bear. Your favorite. I found it in a pawn shop. Took weeks. You could have just called, she said, tears hot on her face. They wouldn't let me, he hissed, words suddenly feral. The ghosts, the ones living in your walls, they only hush when there's blood. He touched the chair. Sit, we'll talk. She realized then he was broken in ways bleach couldn't wipe clean. Trauma had bent him until murder felt like carpentry. She lowered the gun. Let's go outside, Liam. We can figure this out. Footsteps crunched behind her. Manny's voice. Eliza? He stepped through the door, phone in hand. I pinged your GPS. What the hell? He saw the gun. Liam, the gloves. Liam moved faster than thought. He snatched Manny by the collar, pressed a scalpel she hadn't seen beneath Manny's chin. I'm not done, he said. One more scene, the fire's finale. Then she'll remember everything. He met Eliza's eyes. You'll remember you promised never to leave me. Manny quivered. Blood beaded at the scalpel tip. Eliza's body trembled. She was again the little girl coughing in smoke, watching flames eat wallpaper trains. She made a decision. She let the gun drop. Okay, she said softly. I'll stay. Just let him go. Liza, Manny breathed. She lifted her hands, palms up, empty. You want one more scene? Make it me. That's how you finish the story, right? Original cast only. Liam's eyes glistened. I would never hurt you. Then prove it. Let him walk. A wail cut the air. Sirens threading the pines. Manny must have called 911 before entering. Liam calculated, knuckles whitening on the scalpel. He shoved Manny aside and grabbed Eliza's wrist. Basement, he rasped. They stumbled down the charred stairs. The basement smelled like damp and old apologies. Against one wall stood a table set with items. The mitten, music box, marble in a saucer, a row of Polaroids. On the far side, gasoline cans waited. I rebuilt the room, he said. All that's missing is the fire. He tugged a matchbook from his pocket. Elderberry Motel printed in peeling gold. Eliza's mind flashed. Father striking matches, mother pouring gas, children promised an adventure in the dark. She had blocked it out because remembering felt like complicity. She'd watched and done nothing. Liam, listen to me. She stepped between him and the cans. We don't need to burn it. I remember everything. His gaze flicked across her face. Hunting lies. You remember the promise? She nodded. Forever 2 against the world. Above them, boots pounded the porch. Police. Liam heard them too. He gripped her shoulders, frantic. Sing it, he said. What? The song, Mom's song. Sing it. Eliza's pulse hammered. She could not recall any song, only smoke. But she opened her mouth and let the lullaby from the music box slip out. Hickory-dickory-dock. The mouse ran up the clock. Her voice shook, but she sang, note for note. Liam's grip loosened. Tears etched clean lines down his soot-smeared face. Sirens halted outside. Megaphone shouts floated through boards. Come out with your hands up. Liam backed toward the gas cans. If they take me, they'll split us again. They won't. She reached for him. Put the matches down. He struck one. Flame flared, sulfur sharp. Police boots thundered the stairs. Eliza grabbed the nearest object, the music box, and hurled it at the flame. The kerosene vapor ignited mid-air, a flash like sunrise. She tackled Liam, knocking the match free, stamping it out with her boot. The box clattered, song guts spilling. Officers swarmed, rifles up. Liam collapsed, sobbing, wrists offered. They cuffed him with a gentleness Eliza would remember later and not know how to feel about. Outside, dawn lifted over the pines. Paramedics checked her vitals. Detectives peppered questions. She answered in monotone until Manny, throat bandaged, touched her elbow. You okay, Chica? She looked at him, at the house, at the smoke that still threaded from broken windows, though no flames burned. I don't know, she said. In the hospital waiting room, she unfolded the remaining Polaroids. One showed her and Liam building a blanket fort. Another, their mother asleep at the kitchen table, cigarette between fingers. In every photo, the adults' faces were scratched away. Liam had been erasing the villains one by one, in pictures and in life, hoping to leave only the two of them, safe. She felt sorrow and something uglier. Understanding. Trauma wasn't linear. It spiraled, pulling wreckage into its wake. She had cleaned scenes for years, scrubbing out strangers' stories because her own scared her blind. Manny returned with vending machine coffee. She accepted the cup, warming her fingers. You should take some time off, he said. Maybe. She watched a janitor mop a spill across the tile, bleach slicing the air. But scenes don't clean themselves. He frowned. Eliza, I'll file the leave forms, she promised, after I see my brother. She walked to the psychiatric ward where Liam waited under observation. Behind safety glass, he sat cross-legged, humming Hickory Dickory Dock, rocking the earless teddy. He looked up when she entered, hope flickering like a pilot light. She picked up the phone on her side of the glass. He mirrored her. I'm here, she said. Remember? Enough. She pressed her palm to the glass. His matched it, gloveless now, warm through the barrier. Outside, cleaners would bleach Elderberry Lane until it shone. Families would move in, bake cookies, fight over bills, sleep through thunderstorms. Life would overwrite blood because that was the uneasy contract of the living. But some stains, she knew, never went out. They sank deeper, etched into the grain, invisible until you stripped back the varnish. She and Liam were such stains. They could not be purged, only acknowledged, traced, contained. Eliza, Liam said, voice small. Yes. Don't leave. I won't, she answered, uncertain of anything except her own fragility. Not this time. In her pocket, the marble clicked against her keys, a reminder that childhood could be both toy and weapon. She would carry it and the mittens and every unfinished memory, not to rebuild the past, but to ballast the future. In the corridor, Manny waited. They walked toward elevators that hissed open like new chapters. She did not know what came next. She only knew she would clean scenes again, and each time she flipped a blood-slicked cushion or sopped up the color of dying, she would remember that behind every stain pulsed a story. And sometimes that story was her own, still being written, still begging for mercy.